Welcome everybody to the Nemesis podcast. First podcast we've had back here. I think it's been 3 or 4 seasons or so. It's definitely great to be back. Alongside me, I got 5, wonderful Nemesis members here. Mealey, CMoney, Marco, Ventus, and ChunkLite. We are the news team. Coming at you. We're definitely looking to get people on in the future. So don't feel free that you just have to be on the news team to get on the podcast. We'll have opportunities for people to get on. But I'm gonna let each of these guys introduce themselves, starting with Mealey. How we doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. Before we continue on any further, I just want you to do a quick mic check, if that's fine, to make sure you're on the right microphone input.
Check 1, check 2.
It sounds very echoey. In stream. Yeah. Okay. But while you're messing with that, I've been doing pretty good today. What was it? It's a Saturday today. It's nice. It's a holiday weekend. We have a week off of Nemesis, so we can take a few days to not necessarily think about league play and my teams as GM. With that said, though, super excited to be here to talk about a few things. Had a good day overall, and yeah.
All right, how am I sounding now, everyone? I think.
Oh, you're perfect now.
Did
You sound great.
I think my audio
Yeah,
was
you're
good.
Very
You got off that default mic.
Yeah, it was on
Yes,
default.
sir.
I didn't switch it when I was setting everything up. My bad, guys. I apologize. Sorry if I blew your eardrums out. But CMoney, how you doing tonight?
Chilling. Got a nice day off. Went out. Long weekend. And, make my first appearance back in, 3-4 seasons now?
Yeah,
So, feels good.
It's great to have you back. Great to be able to sign you off of waivers to my Pawns team. So I'm excited to have you back in the league for sure. Marco, how's your weekend going?
It's going pretty good. Excited to be on here for the first time, talk about some stuff, and yeah.
Excellent. Ventus, you're not new to the booth here, but how's your weekend going? And first time on the podcast for you, I believe.
Yeah, it's first time on the podcast though. I cast pretty regularly, so yeah, you're right. I'm not super new to it, but definitely new to the podcast thing. It'll be interesting to see how what I'm able to bring to the podcast and just kind of mess around and do random stuff. But as for my weekend, not too bad. Playing a lot of video games. Kind of just chilling. It's a nice long weekend, Memorial Day. Don't have to do anything Monday. Probably gonna be drinking later. I am 21, so for all those who are concerned about underage drinking, not advocating for it as I am of age, but that'll be something I'll be looking forward to later tonight.
I couldn't agree more with you. It's a great weekend for it. Unfortunately, where I'm at, we're getting out of the tail end of a very bad storm. So I'm hoping Memorial Day actually ends up being nice. But ChunkLite, you're new here to the booth. You've done a couple caster workshops.
Yeah.
How you feeling? And glad to have you here on the podcast.
So far it's been a good day. I got to sleep a lot. Got to sleep in. Other than that, I've just been playing Rocket League on my free time.
Grind never stops.
Grind never stops. As you can see there in the middle of all of us there, the Nemesis logo. Nemesis, the grind continues. We're always grinding. We're always aiming to get better. We're always aiming to have the best content we can. And that's why we started the podcast back up. We used to have podcasts back in the day. It used to be fun. People just getting on, talking about anything Nemesis and Rocket League related. So I'm excited to definitely get that back rolling for you guys. And the first thing that I definitely want to touch on, and we have our lovely handy management member here on the panel with us today, is just some of the off-season changes that were put into place for this season, and kind of how that affects the league and what you guys perceive from it as well. So we'll have Mealey talk about that a little bit, and then we'll obviously comment what our thoughts are on those as well.
Awesome. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to mention, which if you're a GM, you're very familiar with, which I know some of us here are, or an AGM even for that matter, because it did directly influence how people built their teams throughout the first couple of weeks, and in the off season as well. But previously in the Nemesis Gaming League, for those who might not be aware, we had unlimited resign ability. So a GM could theoretically re-sign their entire organization if they wanted to, and say they had one or two championship teams, they could bring back those championship teams so long as they're still in the same MMR, in the same league, or league tier rather. So basically, we wanted to not only kind of get things swinging back towards the whole draft concept, as Nemesis is a draft-based league, but also kind of give opportunities to new players coming in, right? So this season, in case anybody doesn't know, we ended up limiting our re-signs to 6. And I know we came up with this number because we were thinking to ourselves, like, okay, obviously a lot of teams have 2 AGMs because you're allowed to have 2 AGMs. And if not 2, then most people have 1. So right there, including yourself as GM, that is 2 to 3 people. So already right there, that's half of the 6. And then we were like, okay, like if you want to be able to build a team any further, we would allow like another 2 to 3 more. The thing that I like about this resign is that we're not like super strict on it to the point where it has to be like all different leagues. You can stack up on one league if you want. Like I said before, say you had a championship Chally team, right? And you wanted all 4 of them to come back. You could use 4 resigns and bring back that entire Chally team. Then you only have 2 more to work with throughout all your other teams. Or if you wanted, you can split up, 1 per team and kind of have someone to build off of. So with that said, I'm curious as to what you guys think as potential fellow AGMs, as I know some of you guys are, or Speed as a fellow GM as well. What are your opinions so far with this new rule, experiencing it this last offseason for the first time? Floor is open, by the way.
Yeah. I think as a GM here, I really liked it, but I also hated it at the same time. And why I liked it is because it really, like you said, it brings you back to the draft feel of what Nemesis is. There's so many of these leagues now that it's bring your own, create your own. You have to say yes to joining a team. Like it all has to be agreed upon to join these teams, right? So you, as a player, get to choose. What's nice about this is that, you can end up anywhere. There's players don't agree. You agree to go to any team when signing up to the league. So, being able to hold on to only select people and then them going back to the draft, and if you want them back, hopefully you can re-sign them again. I love that aspect of it, right? It just gives so many people more opportunities. You're gonna get different looking teams. Draft picks become more valuable, especially those 3rd round picks, where it was really like, we have 4 rounds of drafts and draft picks, but 3rd and 4th rounds were non-existent. Now we're starting to see 3rd rounds become more existent. Last season they were more valuable, and I expect people to really start valuing, their 4th round picks as well. I didn't like it because it made it so much harder to make things happen within your teams. You really had to use all draft capital that you had to, even out all your leagues. As a GM, you don't care about just one team. You're trying to get all 4 teams the best as you can. And if you're not doing that, then, in my opinion, you're not quite fit to be a GM, because you can't just focus on one team versus the other. So it definitely made it a lot harder in that aspect as a GM, but it's definitely a W change in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with Speed. I mean, you're talking about like these teams that have been together for multiple seasons. I mean, I've been there since season 1, so I've seen all these different dynasties form, especially like in Titan. Titan had the same winner for 3 straight seasons, and they just stayed the same, and they stayed around the same MMR because they didn't grind rank, and it was so difficult, at least in Titan, to actually like win because you could get close. I mean, I got second 3 times in a row, but I was never able to win Titan because of that dynasty. And so it's just like I think that being only limited to 6 really limits, and like you have to, as a GM, see how much you value each individual league and how you value each player, and you kind of have to stack that up against each other. And I think it creates like a unique, situation where the GMs have to basically formulate with the little resources they have the best possible outcome for their team. And I really like that as something that's changed. And one thing I was kind of wondering about, and I'll throw this question to you, Mealey, is I know that I think for this season, if you traded one of your 6 signed, like re-signed players, you don't get to have another option. So let's say like you were going to re-sign just to trade a player. That means you only then get to keep 5 players. Is that correct? I believe that's what I was thinking of.
So the way I viewed it, at least, because I also did trade away a player and actually acquired a player as well, is that you kind of re-sign that player to then trade away, but the player you are trading for, if you are trading for one, which again, this might be kind of where the discrepancy is, right? Like if you're trading for a player, you're kind of assuming that re-sign. But yeah, if you're only going to trade a player away, um, then to my knowledge, yeah, it does still count as a re-sign. Maybe it's something that we could look at, in the future. If it is something that could be altered or changed, I have no idea. But as of right now, yeah, like you're looking at it the right way. Yeah.
Okay, because I was seeing and I was like, man, that kind of sucks for GMs, like especially if you're not getting a player in return. If you're gonna trade one of your 6 re-signs for a pick only and not get a player in return, I was like, man, that like really, really, makes it even harder for GMs, especially if you have a player who really wants to go play for another org or wants to join another team, and they're like, hey, I really enjoyed playing in your org, but is there any chance that you could trade me? And I think that like I know a couple of GMs did this, and like they did it out of the goodness of their heart, where it's like, man, they put themselves in an even worse position because they decided, I'm gonna do, what my player wants. I'm gonna give him a good, home to go to, and I'm gonna trade him, and then I feel like they just get like screwed over a little bit. Obviously it's kind of on them, but uh, I mean, I would be interested to see if there's anything that would be willing to change about that. More specifically, if they didn't get a player in return, because obviously, if you re-sign 6 players, trade one, and get a player back, you still have 6 players. But if there's something where you're only getting draft pick compensation, then maybe it's something to look at. I don't. Maybe a rule change.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah,
CMoney, Chunk, yep.
a big thing that it affected was in Novice League there was really solid player in Div, right? And like everyone wanted him. And they couldn't re-sign him. He was on a championship last team, and they really wanted to re-sign him. They didn't have the re-signs, so they had to use resources and trade up to the second pick, where they could guarantee to pick him up. So I think that it just makes team use more resources and not like be able to hold on to all their like capital and all the good players they have.
Now, I do I agree. I think that it's good to use the resources, but this was the first season that y'all did this, correct, Mealey? So, if you were to do something, like let's say this is like retrospectively looking, I would have liked to tell GMs what you guys were implementing when we were doing that full reset season, because then it kind of is like, let's say people traded away. I know. For my sake, a GM traded 3 first rounds to acquire me last season, where they lose so many of those resources, where they didn't realize like, hey, now I'm only gonna be able to re-sign 6 people. Those draft picks are infinitely more important, especially those first round picks. It I not saying like, yeah, we can't do anything about, but like I just feel like it kind of sucks for those GMs who'd made early acquisitions in the beginning of the previous season, in season 11, when we did the full reset, and use those draft picks and then no longer have anything really to trade for, and then now are limited by the re-signings by only 6.
Yeah, there's a couple of different pieces to that. Obviously, like if you create or come up with a rule or you want to change a rule, unfortunately, it's going to impact somebody no matter what or when you put it out there. I mean, you do bring up a good point though. Like, don't get me wrong. Like if we thought about this, say 2 seasons ago, and then say, hey, just a heads up, we're looking to implement this 2 seasons from now, so you have ample time to prepare for it. Um, so I definitely could see where that could have been a better kind of avenue to go down. Um, with that said, though, I guess for a first time doing this for this season, I feel like overall it kind of eh, had the impact we were hoping for. Of course, there's some negative drawbacks that we saw, and you guys brought up some good points as well, and we appreciate the feedback as well. And by the way, speaking of feedback, this is the kind of stuff we'd love to hear about in between seasons and after seasons. Like give us this kind of feedback so we know. Like are there things that are like completely hated by most of the player base and GMs and stuff, or like are some of these new changes kind of like better and make the league better as a whole? Because obviously, like I said, there's room to be able to discuss and potentially change this, right? I am curious, just like looking at the sole concept of it being 6 people, how did you feel about the number? Like, did you think it was severely low? Do you think it was too high in some cases, or do you think it was kind of like just right? Anybody?
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I can throw my hat back in the ring. I can talk. I mean, I think 6 was like a really good number, all things considered. I think that there might have been a little bit more AGM turnover this season than previously, and that's probably because the full season reset, people kind of didn't know who they wanted their AGMs to be. They're kind of working the kinks out on that, and so I think there was. I'm not actually sure if there was a lot of AGM turnover. I'm just kind of spitting here. But I think that 6 was a really good number because you have your GM usually is a player. You have your 2 AGMs are usually players as well, and then you have your 3 other most solid players. I think maybe you could say 7 players is the only thing. Maybe one more. I think 6 is a very good number, but 7 allows you to technically have 1 in 4 leagues, and then whatever your AGMs and GMs are. Um, and obviously you could stack it, or if you want to increase that number, you could try limiting to only 2 players in a league. I think that could be really cool if you were to increase it. I think 6 is a great number though. But I do kind of also like maybe only 2 per league, and then you actually have to use a draft pick for that league in the draft, and um, you know it just makes each draft more valuable because like let's say you use 3 resigns for a prospect league team that won the championship, and then you just trade away your first and second round pick prospect because you don't need those anymore because you have the same 3 starters coming back. um I think that like it would be really interesting to see a max of like 2 people per league, but only and then like 7 players that you could re-sign instead. But I think 6 overall was a really good number. I think y'all did a really good job.
yeah, I think what
Yeah.
was talked about, it was kind of like however many teams that org has, and then 2 additional players, right? Um, is what I think the consensus was. Um, so that way, technically speaking, you could bring 1 player back from each of your teams, and then you have 2 extras to spare out. Which I love that idea. That the reasoning behind it makes 100% sense to me, right? Um, but the only thing that I personally thought was a little weird, or didn't necessarily like with the number of 6 is um, the GM, right? The one constant that org is going to have, right, is your GM, right? AGMs come, they go, they get changed, right? So I personally would have liked it to see that rule, right, and then +1 for your GM, right? Because that makes it so much harder, especially for some of these GMs who don't feel they're worth their peak MMR. And we saw it happen last year with the reset, right? With the GMs, if you were in the top half of your league MMR wise, you were a first round pick. If you were in the bottom half, you were a second round pick, right? So some of these GMs who were, 5 away from the bottom were technically a second round pick. Most of the time, those players don't get drafted until the 3rd or 4th round. So it kind of forced some of those who wanted to play, but were like, I don't feel I'm worth it, to then take a back seat, go non-playing to start the season. And then, they had I think it was last season, it was like a 6-match hold before they could come back, right? It kind of, some of these rules I feel like kind of deter GMs from playing. At least the ones that aren't like super like feel they're worth their MMR, which kind of is a little disappointing to see. But at the same time, I understand the whole aspect of it, because in general it makes the league what the league is, and it makes it more competitive, and the integrity of it stronger. So
Yeah, I think another thing that really like affects that as well is like if your GM's like sub MMR in like the league, because they have to re-sign themselves, and they're technically like re-signing a 4th on a team that won't really get to play. So it will affect that team like a lot. You have to like dedicate more stuff to that team, or because you have to re-sign the GM. So it just kind of affects it unless the GM is forced to go non-playing, like Speed said.
And I want to get Marco in here, CMoney. You guys haven't spoken yet, so I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. CMoney, I know you've taken a little bit of a break from playing in the league, so this rule didn't necessarily affect you directly, but just kind of curious on what your thoughts are of it.
I mean, overall, the whole thing for me was a culture shock, to be honest. Came in, I was just kind of like thinking of signing up, looking through some of the rosters to see who was still on teams from last season. And I don't think I saw anybody super notable on the same team they'd been on forever. I mean, like Ventus said earlier, referencing, we ended up creating a dynasty essentially going into like season 4, maybe even as early as season 3, where teams were just stacked. And if they were stacked, that was what they did. They stayed together, they didn't leave. But I will say one cool thing is like I came in halfway through season 1 into Nemesis, signed up in season 2. I mean, Ventus has been here the whole time, I'm pretty sure, right? You said season 1. Speed's been here for a long time. And like, I mean, I don't know if they feel the same way, but when Nemesis was first starting out, first 4 or 5 seasons, there was a lot of people in general, a lot of people always signing up for 6-mans. A lot of the staff teams were just hanging out in staff calls sometimes. And there was a lot of community, and so I think this will be good to bring something like that back too, for sure, because you're not going to be with the same 4 people, maybe 8 if you count your scrims for inter-org scrims, where you're sitting in your org's team's VCs and hiding away from Nemesis as the whole. So it's definitely a cool concept. Definitely weird to come back to, not seeing the same Titan teams that had always been the same Titan teams, and a couple other teams. I mean, Drake's had a back-to-back with Biscuit being the captain both times. I know there were some other issues where they didn't have all the same players because the teams rotated through the season, but overall there were quite a few back-to-backs early on. Melons had one early on from same teams. So it'll be interesting to see other orgs get the wealth and see who can come up with better teams and better ideas on how to do it.
Yeah, Marco.
Yeah, I agree, but like I'm not gonna touch on it too much, because I low-key didn't even know like it was a change that happened. So I mean, change is always good for like the leagues, and I think it created more of a challenge for GMs with like new flowing faces in and out, not being able to re-sign like full teams. So I mean, I like the change overall. I think 6 was like a perfect number. I mean, I just think, I mean, I don't know. I like it overall. I just can't really talk much about it because I didn't know what happened.
No, you're good.
Man of many words over there.
Many words. He'll get talking, I feel, here in a little bit. When it's something he's definitely more aware of and connected to. But for sure, I think, like you said, changes are great. Nemesis has made many changes over the season. Another one this offseason, the 4% rule for returning players who took a break. And just there's a bunch of different rules that are going into place that are being considered all the time, that I think just is what's going to hold the integrity of the league and allow more people to play and want more people to play when things are being more fair, all around, and just making it better. Yeah, I miss the old days, like CMoney said. People always used to hang out in VCs. Like, it wasn't just like we're starting to see it a little more, but like, I used to drive in for FedEx back in the day, hop in a VC, general VC, while driving and working all day long, dude. And there'd be like 30 different people that would come in to say hi throughout the day, right? I could sit in there all day now, or the last couple seasons. The season's been pretty good, but last couple seasons I could sit in there all day and maybe 3 people would pop in. It's definitely nice when you're getting kind of forced to playing with new people, so you're opt to want to talk to more people because you never know who's going to be on your team next, who's going to be in your org next, and you want to make those friendships. And if you want to be good at the game and you want to have a successful season, you need to play with your teammates. You need to play with more people to understand who might be a better pickup for your team, whatever the scenario may be. So I definitely think it helps in that aspect as well, like CMoney was saying.
Yeah, I mean, spectating used to be one of the most popping calls on Monday and Wednesdays. You'd have every sub sharing every match, everybody hanging out, going crazy for whatever was happening, and it's 30 different matches. And then you get towards season 9, 10, almost every sub joins that call pre-muted. Not really going to talk to anyone. A couple people might share their streams when they find out that, the 10-0 team is playing a 9-1 team and they want to see if they can lose the perfect. That might be about the only thing that gets streamed anymore. But, hopefully everyone starts hanging out and the spectating and going crazy for the dumbest things, even when it's the 1-9 team versus the 0-10 team.
Hey, don't sleep on the 1-9 versus the 0-10 matches, man. Some of those are crazy good. I mean, just imagine the bragging rights when you actually overtake them and they're like, "Oh, you suck. You're the worst team in the league now, not us." I'm just saying, you can't sleep on those. Those are some fun matches still.
They feel like they have nothing left to lose, they get kind of out of hand sometimes.
No,
and it's
great.
great.
Yeah, no.
It's great. I hate to admit it, but I've had 2 teams go and start a season 0-8. Ended up making some last minute roster changes right there before the trade drop deadlines, and ended up 2 times turning around and making play-ins. One season made it out of play-ins, and I beat one of our friends here on the mic here, Marco, in the quarterfinals way back in the day, in a little perfect sweep action of that season.
You beat me in playoffs.
Speed
is it-
doesn't
is it a
forget his
shock?
W's, man.
I think it was Marco.
Well, I mean, Marco's never won a playoff series, so
All right.
Hey,
like
join
ever.
the club, Marco.
All right.
I mean,
Right. I don't know what it is. He's
The only-
absolutely cursed.
He's
The
He-
only playoff series I recall from Nemesis was my Orbit Hellcats one, and I still got swept. So I think the one you're thinking of, I was on that team, and then I got traded because I went on vacation. So,
Yeah, that's
I
what it
don't know.
was.
Unfortunate. Imagine going on vacation during Nemesis
Yeah, I
season.
know.
He doesn't remember because he forgets all playoff matches because he just hasn't won one. So none of them are memorable to him because
Yo.
he's still
Hey,
searching
hey.
for that first one.
This
need to
season
get
could
that
be the
Nemesis
season. I mean,
playoff
not
pet.
to jinx. Not
I
to
say that
jinx
every
anything.
season.
This
Not to
season
hope- I
could
hope-
be the
I
season
hope-
for Marco.
Marco's
hope
team's
so.
gonna lose like 4 games total all season, get to playoffs as the 1 seed, and still find a way to
Just flip.
lose.
I trust Flip and Squintle.
I don't know how much I trust Flip. I don't know.
Flip's the goat. I trust him.
Don't sleep on my caster, buddy. Flip.
Flip the caster, great caster. Obviously, I'm just joking. Flip, great Rocket League player as well. But speaking of great Rocket League, I do want to get into some actual Nemesis Rocket League conversations, not just behind the scenes league stuff and changes. And I'm gonna send this this first one over to the GM. He had a team who had a little bit of an upset this past week. And I wanna hear what he knows about that, and how hyped his team must have been to be able to get a big upset win.
I didn't know DJD was here. Oh, you meant me. My
yeah.
bad. My bad. Yeah. So I'll be honest. That was a very, very unexpected upset on what was it, Monday?
Yep.
It was, yeah. Minotaur has taken down the at the time 3-0 Hypernova.
Correct.
I think my guys were actually 0-3 as well, or 0-2 or whatever it was. Anyway, yeah, no, that one came out of nowhere. I remember we had our match, and I was just kind of like looking through other stuff after we played our series, and just looking down in the Minotaurs section in the server. And all I see are multiple LFGs, let's go. Obviously, they're just hype, so they don't mean any negative comments that they may or may not have been saying. But yeah, they were just absolutely hype. I mean, hopefully everyone here knows that feeling in one way or another when you take down a powerhouse of a team. And I mean, just shout out to Hypernova as well. Like, regardless of that series, they are still a massive powerhouse in Prospect this season. And I personally, anticipate them making it far in playoffs and having a quite insane record. But yeah, I don't know how they pulled it off. I didn't even get a chance to watch the replays, but yeah, they were absolutely stoked. I remember after that match.
I mean, if I was them, I would be
Well-
too. I personally was stoked for him just when I was looking through prospect reporting, as that's my league, and looking through it afterwards to see how other teams fared. And I looked and I said, Minotaurs 3-2 Hypernova, and I was like, hold on, what? Hold on, Minotaurs 3-2 Hypernova.
If I remember right, I think it was a reverse sweep too.
Yeah, and then I was looking at all the emojis. I'm pretty sure. Let me go double check this. I'm pulling it up right now. Where was that? I don't see any brooms, so I don't know if it was quite a reverse.
I'm
Flip
pretty
said
sure
it was.
But I saw that, and I definitely read it 2 or 3 times because I saw Gallium posted it. Gallium was the one who made that post too. So I'm reading Gallium. I saw his name. I know he's on Hypernova. I was like, all right, they won. And I'm just, I read it and I'm like, Minotaurs. And I was, did he type that wrong? It's like, is this right? Had to go and read prospect chat and then, actually see what was being said in prospect chat to actually verify that, the Minotaurs had won. So, that was right after a roster change that you had too. I believe you had just picked up Carnage as well. So, obviously that had a pretty big effect on that. Carnage has been in the league for a little bit as well. Great player. Add Tyso, another great player that you have dropped down from Chally. So it's no surprise there, and they just had a little bit of a slow start to the season, and was able to take a really big win in their hands.
If I recall, in that game, they played a 7-minute game 1, and then the server crashed, so that may have affected the result. So I think that if I was on Hypernova and I played like 7 minutes of the first Rocket League game, I'd be like, it would just ruin my mental. So I think that probably brought some different impact to the league, or not to the league, to the game, but it definitely affected the series as well, I think.
I mean, yeah, definitely. Anytime you go to a long game, right, and it's a nail biter, you're both putting up amazing shots. Teams are making amazing saves on your shots, right? And you got these long nail biters of a game, and then you lose. It's always a dagger to the heart, right? So that definitely can affect the mental aspect of things. We know Rocket League is, especially when you get into series, is very mental based as well as skill based, right? So um, I have no doubt that had an effect on them, especially when Hypernova, they know they're good. Everyone's hyping them up. No pun intended with that one. But that would have definitely probably got under my skin a little bit, knowing that no one's spoken too highly of Minotaurs at the time, and then you go and just lose a really tough nail biter, and then proceed to lose the next game. After that, it's definitely would have been hard.
For sure, man.
So, next, kind of notable match that happened in the last week, I want to talk about this is the Flame and Raptors. Flame and Raptors, we all know Local has been over there for the last 2 seasons, gets traded to the Raptors, and, Raptors starting to, look really good. They took what arguably was Flame's best player. Then they go and play each other in the next match. Raptors then came out and put up a giant goose egg against Local's old team. I just think, the storyline behind that is, a good one. So, anyone else have any comments on that series there, or knows what exactly happened with that one? As I haven't heard anything particular.
I mean, without even hearing anything, it's pretty standard for you to get traded to a team and go lose your next game. You don't have chemistry yet. You've probably played 3-4 hours of ranked total. That tends to be what happens. Just very unfortunate it was against his old team.
Yeah, I mean, I casted that series, and it was not what I expected to happen whatsoever. I mean, there are definitely some issues with the rotations with that new squad, and obviously that's going to happen when you introduce a new player who is a very established player, and kind of, especially in Nemesis, he has his way that he wants to play, and he now has to either adapt or get the rest of the team to adapt to how he wants to play. And there's going to be some like butting heads. There's going to be some confusion. They're not gonna play great. And that's just something that happens. And I know local is a great player, especially in Challenger League. I believe he even hit 1,700 this season for as a Challenger player, which is crazy. So obviously he is a very good player. I, I mean, I just think that Flame might be better without him, and that might be a crazy thing for me to say. But when you looked at Flame, they looked very cohesive, and I think that's something that kind of surprised a lot of people, because you're taking out a all-star kind of caliber player in local, and you're just seeing if Flame can kind of fill in the cracks. And they honestly really surprised me with how well they played together. And you got to think, like, Flame had also pretty much been playing together for the first time as well. It's not like they went out and practiced this roster without local for the season. I mean, local played in all the with them in scrims in the games preseason and into the start of the season. So it's definitely a difficult thing for them to also need to now adapt to a new playstyle. But I think that they did it very well, and they looked very good, and they all kind of like wanted to play the same way, and I think that might be why they moved on from local. Is Smooth the GM of
Yep.
that org? And maybe the YZY and Visk went to Smooth, and they were like, hey, we think we have something here without local, and we don't want to bench him because we know he is a good player, but I think we might be better off without him. And I feel like that's such a weird and like tough thing to do, or as a GM, kind of like listen to your players and kind of be like, hey, I know you've had this player for the last like 2 seasons and previous seasons before that. Would you be willing to move on from him? And I really want to give props to Smooth to like taking that dive and kind of being like, yeah, I'll trust my players. If they think that this is going to be the best for the team, or maybe he just got a really good offer from Raptors, and he was like, you know what, this offer is too good to pass up. I also got to think about the future of my org, not just the team for this season. But whatever it was, I think Smooth might have been cooking.
Yeah, I did want to say really quick. You had me double backing for a second, and I had to go back and check and even ask Rockerman. I was gonna say I thought for sure I like ended up casting that game, and I think it was me and Rockerman because I remember thinking to myself, even without local, I remember calling out Visk's name a lot because I think he scored like at least 75% of all the goals in that series. But him and YZY were going absolutely crazy, and that Flame team. I remember was working a lot better as a team than that Raptors roster, which again, I think we brought it up, and it makes complete sense as well that a new trade happens, locals playing on a new team with new players. Obviously, the first match you play is not going to be simple at all, right? The other thing I wanted to mention, so basically the first thing I want to mention is Visk and that Flame roster at really, really, really good roster, and I'm actually kind of terrified to face them coming up soon when the divisional opponents, divisional matchups start. The second thing is Raptors did also acquire Brudder, and we just played that roster, and it definitely made a bit of a difference in my opinion. When we were watching that game against Flame, they had a lot of miscues. But those miscues seem to have completely like fallen off because when we played against them, albeit we went up 2 games, and ended up getting reverse swept. They were able to figure it out, and we just could not do anything any further.
I mean, maybe it's a win-win for both these teams in Challenger. I mean, that it's not super likely that happens, where both teams kind of come out on top of this trade looking better. Usually, when you trade away a really good player, the team tends to get worse. But it looks like for the Raptors, from what you're saying, merely that they look really good, and Flame on stream also looked really good. So I mean, it seems like the trade's working out really well so far. Obviously, it's very early to decide how that trade happens. We might end up seeing, Flame lose the next 6 straight. I mean, we really don't know. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I definitely did not cast that series. You're correct, and I definitely was just watching and talking with people about the series. But my statements still stand. I was very much watching that series and providing commentary um, about my opinions and on how they were playing and stuff. So yeah, I'm interested to see these teams down the road, how they end up panning out.
Now, I'm curious. I just want to chime in. I'm curious as to, and this is gonna be a question for you, Marco. Who do you think? It's way too early to say this, but who do you think won this trade?
I think like Ventus just said, I think it's a win-win for both teams. But I think overall, I think Flame got the better part of it just because like the amount of those picks. But I mean, Raptors can also win it because I mean, like the roster they have now with 7 local and Brother, that's like just a stacked team for Chally. But I mean, getting all those picks for local, I think it's very worth it. They still have a solid team, and they have a good future now too.
And I think to add on, they spent 5 total firsts, I believe. They spent 3 on local. Then they also sent 2 more to the Dragon Org in order to get Brother. So
And
The
they
picks-
spent 1 on 7.
Yeah, I was gonna say they spent 1 and a second on 7 as well.
So they spent a total, I think, I looked at it yesterday, it was like 6 firsts and like 2 or 3 seconds to build this roster that they originally didn't have after draft.
So yeah, just like that, they better be getting at least something from this team in the future, because six picks from the first round is ridiculous, in my opinion.
Better franchise that whole team. It sounds like.
These players better re-sign for centuries for Crip. But again, then ties back in, right? You spend a lot of your draft capital, but now you only have 6 re-signs. So like, chances that he's gonna be able to re-sign all 3 of these, especially if they all fit in Sal. They don't move leagues. Like, yes, they could go and win it this season, but then that just means, all right, are they gonna go up in Sal? Are they gonna fit it as a team again? Is he gonna even want to keep all 3 of these, even if he has the option to? So it's really making these trades now. Like, hey, you want to spend 3 firsts on a player? Can you do it? Now you start talking about you're trading for one team, all these picks. It really adds into the decision, and I'm curious on what Crip's mindset was, if he even kind of remembered about these limited re-signs when making these deals, or if because it's so new and he's been a GM for a while now that it kind of slipped his mind. But I definitely want to get back into another great matchup that happened this week. Marco, I'm going to have you, lead off on this one. Is that Distortion versus Vortex?
Oh yes, I mean Vortex, a great team, 3-0 going into this one on Wednesday, and we had the privilege of warming up Vortex kinda, even though I had some internet issues that kind of ruined the scrim. But and then Distortion has Flame Intruder, Zero, and Sprinkle as their main roster. They were started 0-3, and then Sprinkle's been having PC issues throughout the season, so they started Nervebot, shout out Nervebot, and they won in 5 somehow. Wasn't expected at all. I think Distortion went up 2-0, and then Vortex won the next 2, and then they stopped the reverse sweep. So I mean, very good win for Distortion, especially starting 0-3, getting that first win. Very nice. But I think now they have some roster lineups to choose from.
For sure. When one of your top 2 MMR players can't make it, and then you go and get a win against a top 2 team considered in rival. And it definitely makes you turn heads. It definitely makes you curious about what they're gonna do in the future. Like, do they need to relook at play styles? Did they just come out and they knew they were playing a top team and they said, hey, we're not using our starting lineup, let's just give them what we can, and their best that day beat Vortex's best, right? It always makes you turn heads. So and that just proves it, right? Anything can happen on any given day, and you may have a team that's 0-8, you may have a team, whatever the scenario is, right? At any given time, a team can just make it click, and that's all it takes, right? So that's kind of why I wanted to talk about some of these matchups. Is just to talk about some of these things that aren't necessarily expected or weren't expected, and just to show players out there, teams out there, that even if your team's not doing the greatest, that you can always turn it around and make something happen. I know we had a couple more that we had initially planned to talk about, and I do want to touch up on one more of those, which is the Venom Samurai matchup that happened already. Crazy matchup. Unfortunate that we couldn't get it on stream, right? That went to game 5 as well. Last season's grand final in Chally. The story of Tay leaving Samurai, joining the team that beat him. So I definitely wanted to shout out that one too. But we're gonna definitely move on here. I do want to talk about what y'all think is your match of the week when we come back. When we come back, it is divisional matchups starting for prospect through rival. So You played these teams twice. These are arguably the most important games of your season. So I'm definitely excited to see what you guys personally think would be, your match of the week when we come back. So I'm gonna send this one over to you, ChunkLite, on what you think your match of the week is.
There's a couple matches I was looking at, but my match of the week personally is Blackhawks versus Origin. Blackhawks come into this game only dropping one individual a game, and they're looking impressive. I think only one other team has done that, which is the Pineapples. And then Origin comes into this game undefeated as well, but with the top rated player and prospect in player rating, I believe, Hunzer. And I think gonna be a battle of who works more together as a team. And I just think it's gonna be a close one for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with that one. Being in the prospect league myself, I know Rockerman's been flexing his matches, so hopefully we can get a caster workshop for that series as well. CMoney, do your thing.
Yeah, I'll think about it.
Because I definitely want to see that one for sure.
We can't have too much Rocker Man. He's our great and fearless leader, but I heard he gets a big head sometimes.
They can't play on Tuesday or Thursday, so no luck. Well,
Okay, well I tried.
well, I guess we're just gonna have to try to get that one on the mainstream. So, Rockerman, you know what to do. Schedule for a stream slot. Then, we'll make that happen.
Rockerman knows the cheat code. 8:45. 1 to 2 people pick it
every time
per week.
Yep, every time. Ventus, what would be your match of the week coming up for this first set of divisional matchups?
I think that I'm kind of more of a rival league bias. I spend pay a lot of attention more to the rival league. I feel like it's a super active and a very competitive league, and I don't necessarily have a single match, but I think the entirety of the Atlantic division, that those divisional matchups are going to be really interesting. So that's the Pineapples, Blaze, Whiteout, and Chimeras. All of them look to actually be very good. If I had to choose one match, I'd choose the Pineapples versus Whiteout series, and I think that's on Wednesday of next week. I believe, right, Marco? He's my resident Pineapples player. Okay.
He probably doesn't even know.
Just
I just show up.
Show up and play. Show up and play.
But I think that entire division is very scary because I think that T-Jazz on Blaze might be the most underrated rival league player there is. I think he is very, very good, especially up against the rest of the rival league players. And I mean, his stats back it up. I mean, if I go and look at his stats, I mean, he's scoring 545 per game. He has 2 goals per game. I mean, this dude is a menace, and he is the highest rated player for the rival league. And I think that kind of sums up. I think he is a very, very good player. I think that the Blaze are now under. I think they're kind of a slept-on dark horse team. I mean, they didn't have T-Jazz in their last series that they lost. But when T-Jazz is on the field, that Blaze team looks very scary, especially with the biased addition of Boy Wonder that I helped facilitate. I know that Blaze team can be very good, as well as the Whiteout team with Kami and Muffin. Both those guys are very solid. I mean, they're ex-Titan League players, so they have that very high skill potential. I know they don't take the games too seriously, but they might want to take a game seriously, especially against the Pineapples, if they want to ruin the Pineapples' perfect record. And as well as the Chimeras are also a very solid team. I think probably the weakest out of the division, but all 4 of those matches could go either way.
Yeah, that's definitely a scary division taking a look at that one, and honestly, looking through all the leagues, there's quite a few scary divisions. Especially after teams have made some trades, knowing we have this week off, right? So you can afford to make a trade, and then you have a week to build that chemistry with your new team, right? You're not trying to do it while, still playing your league matches. So definitely seeing quite a few roster moves happen for this week. We just had our influx of new players that joined after the draft with the waiver system happening last night. So we saw a bunch of roster moves happen last night. There was like 30 some odd transactions between drops, trades, signs. So it's definitely going to be an interesting week. Marco, I'm assuming you might be sticking here with the rival league as well, but I could be wrong. What do you think is going to be your match of the week when we come back?
I was also gonna go Pineapples Whiteout, but I'll change it up. I'll go down to Chally, and I think Venom Hellcats. Those are two top teams right now, and I'm looking at it right now. Two top rosters, obviously Venom's Tay, Yukio, and Fort. They're considered the top team in the league. I don't know if anyone's gonna beat them, but if someone had to, it might be the Hellcats. They have Strato, Nemesis legend. He's very experienced. I'm not sure who Dalton is, but I know AON, he swept me in playoffs, and Sky Newbie is also another solid player. I think that could be a series to watch and could go the distance. But I mean, yeah. I think also obviously back to the rival league. I think us versus Whiteout will be a good match. Even though we probably won't have Flip 10-10 sadly. I think it'll still be a very good match because I think we're two of like the top 4 teams in the league. So yeah, we should see.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a great matchup as well. And I do want to shout out because I forgot to. Flip, you were also wrong. And Marco was right. I'm just gonna put that out there. Your match against the Whiteout is on Wednesday when you come back, not Monday. So don't tell Marco he's wrong again. All right, buddy.
Yo, get him.
All right, buddy. Aren't you the captain / AGM? Like, shouldn't you know your schedule?
Yep, that's Captain
All
Flip.
right. Anyways, CMoney, welcome to the Pawns, buddy. I know you haven't played in a match
Yeah.
yet this season, but I picked you up off of waivers last night, making a change on my Pawns roster. I hope you can make a difference. They had a rough start to the season, playing Diffusion, last season's champions. Great roster, and then a tough Gorgons team, and that they went to 5 with. Starting 0-2, so you got an uphill battle to help turn around for me. But what is your match of the week when we come back?
Well, I'm rolling back into this season slow and methodical. So I'm not going to lie, I'm a little behind on rosters, all these changes. So just overall, I'm always a man hyped for the undefeated teams to play. Correct me if I'm wrong, unless it happened in the last 3 seasons, but in Nemesis history, there's only been one undefeated team. Correct?
And last season.
For what? For posts?
Oh,
For
last
all
season
of the
there
whole
was a new
season, or just
whole
regular
time.
season?
yeah.
Just the champion. Yeah.
Champion now.
Yes, there's been
What?
one. Wisps.
There's been
Yeah.
one.
Wisps
The
went
Wisps.
21-0 two seasons ago.
Oh, the
Drake.
Wisp did it 2 seasons ago? Then that's 2.
The season before the reset.
Yeah, Drake's did it
believe.
in season 4.
Okay, so yeah, there was another one. Wisp did go 21-0 back when they
Okay.
had Vokes, Ace, and
Blitz.
I believe,
Blitz,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, well, for me, there's only been one. No, I'm just kidding. Wisp, good job. Way to tie the record. But I just like watching them. They're always fun, especially as we start to get towards this divisional section of the season or mid to late season. The pressure starts getting real. The end goal is starting to be in reach. Still a little early for those nerves to be maybe setting in for going for the undefeated season, but still nonetheless fun to watch. The other team is trying to take that as early as possible. So that gives the Hydra game's going to be one I'd like to see. Pineapples, Venom, the last one in Challenger, is probably going to be the one I'd have to take the most. When you have one team left in a whole league is always hype. And then you still have Blackhawks and Origin also sitting in the same division, which is it's got to end this week or next Wednesday maybe or next Monday, wherever their game falls on this next 3-game stretch.
I believe that's Blackhawks.
I think you told me it was the Monday
It
after.
was I believe, yeah. They play. So they play. Nope, match 6. So it'd be Wednesday.
Get him
Oh,
on
nice.
stream.
Oh, they're
So I'm
flexing
just
Monday.
But they're flexing to Monday, so that'll actually be Monday.
yeah. So I mean, slow rolling back into the league, and obviously coming from a very social media team output look. Those are just always my hype games to look at versus necessarily rosters and standings and stuff.
Yeah, that's a very valid point, right? You know, it's very hard to go undefeated regular season. Very hard to continue that if you were lucky enough to do it into the postseason as well. We always manage to find 1 or 2 teams throughout all of Nemesis that are flirting with it up until a match 12, 13.
I think I counted at least 4 other championship teams that only had 1 loss on their record sometime during the regular season. It just, the pressure ate them and they dropped 1 series, and that propelled them. I know for a couple, I talked to some of them throughout my time here. Some of them, it propelled them just to be able to win the rest because that extra burden was off their shoulders of going perfect. So, but yeah, close for sure, but they're always hype.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. They're always great content, especially later in the season when we start hunting, those perfect matchups for the stream game, right? Someone's got to lose their first match, right? So it's great when we get a couple of them in a league that play each other later in the season. Big Mealey. I'm curious to see what your match of the week is when we come back heading into these divisional matchups.
Well, I'm so glad actually that I got to go after CMoney because ours are completely contradicting each other. He
I
went
love
with
it.
the undefeateds. I'm going with the defeateds, man. We have a matchup with Ember and Flurry. Both teams 0-4. It's still early in the season, so 0-4 doesn't mean that your season is over by any stretch of means. But with this matchup being between 2 0-4 teams, whoever comes out on top is going to have that slight advantage. Now, we have Flurry, who just actually acquired Penguiner 1 through this waiver wire period, if I remember correctly. They also have Sea-Wink, Reckless, and Skinny Legend. And on the Ember squad, they have L7 Esoteric, Plugin, Savage, and, everyone knows Control Alt Elite. He's been a Nemesis forever as well.
Yeah.
The winner of this series should assume the 3rd place position in that division. It also depends on what Minotaurs do as well, because Minotaurs are also only 1-3 at this moment as well. So that entire division is still up for grabs, even though two of the teams in that division are 0-4. Ember does have the lower game record in this matchup, but that could mean absolutely nothing. Who knows? This is going to be an absolute grudge match between these 2 teams, and I'm hoping that whoever does come out on top uses that momentum to push forward. And I'd love to see one of these teams, or I guess whoever wins this matchup, in the play-in or playoff position, and then look back at this game and have this be the pivotal moment. And the last thing I'm going to say about this matchup speed: Ember over Flurry in 5. I'm calling it right now.
Ember over
That's a
Flurry
big
in 5.
ask.
That's a call and a half right there, because I'm Rockman, cover your ears. Hasn't officially been posted yet, but there's been a trade that has been accepted and not posted that does affect the roster here.
This ain't fair. I want in on this.
Penguiner,
Insider trading knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Penguiner 1 has
Leaked
been
in chat.
received by Flurry. They were picked up last night. However, they will no longer be on Flurry once said trade goes through. So that does change the rosters just a little bit.
I'm sticking to my prediction though.
They will be definitely a close matchup for sure. Savage was just released by me on the Rooks. We were having a rough start. I needed to make some roster moves. And unfortunately, Savage, my AGM, I felt it was best to try to make a roster move with that MMR of his. Had nothing to do necessarily. I didn't want to get rid of him because he's my AGM, and I really value him and his work. But sometimes when you have to make roster moves, it's about MMRs, right? So unfortunately, I had to make that move with my AGM. All love, Savage. I appreciate everything you've done for me for this season. But I hope this Ember squad definitely goes out there and goes hard. Plug in, been in the league for a while. L7 Esoteric has been putting up some numbers, and with Savage and then Control as their end of the season. I mean, low MMR, good, fill in. You can always count on him. He's been in the league forever. So I definitely agree with you on that one. That's definitely going to be a great matchup. I don't know who's going to take it. I definitely can see that one going to 5 though, but that's definitely going to be a big momentum boost for either one of those teams who pull out that win. Now my personal favorite matchup coming into this next week. There's so many good ones. You guys have talked about it. But the one that I think is going to be the most exciting to watch includes the Venom roster. Venom is going to be playing Assassins on Monday. Assassins have Squirrel courses. They made a trade for Critter. And on that Monday, after acquiring Critter, Squirrel wasn't able to make the game. They didn't get the result that they wanted. But Squirrel came back for Wednesday, and Corsa, Squirrel, and Critter managed to have a very big win, taking down Motion, who is also a top 5, if not top 3 challenger team after some roster moves they've made this season. They did it in reverse sweep fashion as well. So I think this Assassins team is looking really, really scary. I mean, you have 2 rival drop downs in courses in Squirrel. Yes, Squirrel's been Chally for a couple seasons now. But Critter just fits with them so well. They're very aggressive. Critter is like top 5 all time in demos. He loves smelling people's bumpers. It's a little weird, but to each their own. So to me, I think that's going to be my matchup to watch. And it's scary that both of these teams are in the Mountain Division, because that is my division. As a GM, you don't like to see scary teams in your division, and I have 2 very scary teams in my division and 1 league alone. So, but I personally just think that, that Mountain Division in every league is quite stacked, in my opinion. Crazy amount of talent and crazy amount of team skill as well for each of those. How dare you not mention us? Oh, you're gonna take us all down? Okay. Cozy, it's GM week. We're no longer friends this week, so it's rivalry week. So sorry, I can't give you that shout out, my friend. But we are a little past an hour here. I do want to just briefly talk about one more topic. We'll try to make it quick here. We got 3 leagues to talk about. I just want to talk about a little bit so far is some rankings. By rankings, I mean player ratings. I want to talk about the top 5 in each league. Just some numbers for you on who's doing well and what y'all's opinions on that. So I want to start in the rival league. Player rating wise, 1 to 5, we have the Jazzler, Flip 1010, Juicy Leaf, Squintle, and Saucy. Ventus, Marco, this is your guys' homeland. What does that top 5 tell you in player rating? Does any of those guys surprise you, or is there anything that just anything surprising, I guess, about that top 5 so far in the first 4 games?
I think it's a pretty solid top 5. I'm a little surprised about Saucy because I don't think he's started every game, and I'm not as familiar with him. I know he's on Hydra, I believe, but TJI's he's been unbelievable to start the season, averaging 2 goals a game. And then my 2 teammates, Flip and Squintle, they're just so great. And Juicy Leaf, he got recently traded, and he's a very solid player. He's proved it in these last few seasons. I mean, there's no surprises here.
I mean, I'm kind of in a similar boat with Marco. I mean, I'm surprised that maybe there isn't another, maybe Marco. I was expecting Marco to be a little higher. You know, just because I watched I casted the Pineapples last series where they outscored their opponents. I think it was like 17-4. It was like something ridiculous. I mean, they won 8-0 in game number one. So just by inflation of stats alone, I expected all three, Flip, Squintle, and Marco, to be up there. I was also expecting either somebody from the Vortex squad, so LK or Sanzo, or Kisvi, any of those three guys to be in the top five, just with how well Vortex has done this season, and so that was a little surprising to me. And then the last thing was none of the whiteout guys. So mostly Kamikaze and Muffin. Either of those two guys, I was kind of surprised because I think that those two have also done really well this season. And so I think for the most part they do have the player ratings pretty close to what I would be thinking. Maybe I'd move some around a little bit differently, but I think overall it's pretty close to what I expected.
Mealey, CMoney, Chunk, you guys have any thoughts on Rival? I know Chunk and CMoney, you guys are novice residents here, but I know you guys like to follow with
I
the
mean,
league.
these are guys I play with all the time, obviously. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, there was definitely some household names that I've heard in the past always been at the top of the leagues they've been in, with Squintle being one. I've heard Flip quite a bit, and oh man, now I'm drawing a blank. Pretty sure you said him fourth. Who'd you say fourth?
Good question. Fourth was Squintle. So Jazzler, Flip, Juicy, Squintle, Saucy.
Oh, maybe it was just those two that I've heard a lot then. But yeah, there were household names that were definitely passed around, and as somebody who used to be relevant with all leagues all the time, to still hear those guys on top is pretty impressive.
For sure. We are gonna head down to the Challenger League. Mealey, I know you're more enticed with this one. Top five here in order. We have Ryan Gav, Mobamba, Mattias Maximus, Lord Clouds, and Dalton. What are your thoughts on that top five?
So, I'm gonna say this, and don't like take this the wrong way, anybody. But Ryan Gav being the top player in player rating surprised me. Now, it has nothing to do with me thinking like, oh, he's not, a good player or whatever. But it's everything that led up to him actually being here, I think is what kind of surprises me. The dude was in Novice last season. He's now in Chally. And rumor has it he's even pushed into Rival MMR. So not only like or let me rephrase it, there were question marks right when the season started. Was can he keep up? How legitimate, if you will, is his rank up into Challenger League? Yeah, after the first couple weeks, I think he's proved himself, or proved to everybody else that he belongs here. He's put up some insane numbers. We played against him actually, and I remember during that series, Ryan Gav was like the main guy on that team who did the most damage. I think the games that we won, we were able to kind of shut him down, and we did pretty good. But when we lost to them, I think Rye had over 500 score each game. It's just incredible what this player is able to do. Now, talking about Lord Clouds is another player I want to touch on as well. He's a player that, if you're in Chally League, Clouds is extremely mechanical. Arguably, in my opinion, I said this during the draft. I believe it was the most mechanical player in Challenger. If you give Cloud space, he will punish you. That is his game, and you better not allow him to have that space. So seeing him up there doesn't surprise me either. I will say, seeing Bowser up there still, I love seeing that. Copente is in the top 10 as well, and I feel like that's more to be expected. But overall, the list of names that I do see, Metis Maximus, I'm pretty sure he's new to this league this season. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do know, or at least I'm pretty sure, that he teamed up with was it Brother back in UR? I could be very wrong about that. But regardless, I know he's a pretty good player for that squad. So yeah, I mean, like out of all the names up here, like they all deserve to be here. And honestly, I'm not like too shocked about any names that are up there.
I have one shocking thing about this is we have last season's MVP and Charlie Copente, who won MVP, won Finals MVP on the losing squad as well. So he got both MVPs. Goes and joins, the two-headed monster from Venom who beat him, and he's not in the top 5 this season. So you add him to an already stacked team. It's kind of surprising not to see him push into that top 5. He's close. He's sitting at 8, but that right there surprises me that he wasn't in the top 5 yet. So again, it's still early, right? It's only 4 matches in. The MVP race is only just beginning, but that is just a little surprising to me that early in the season he hasn't quite climbed his way up into that top 5 yet.
Yeah, I mean, to go along with that, I also think it's surprising that Yukio isn't at least close to the top 5, top 10 ish. Because I mean, you talk about really good players in Challenger League, and I mean, he won last season. He was a very big part of why Venom won, and he looked very good in the stream games he's been in. And so I think all 3 of those players, Kopente, Fort, and Yukio, not being very high on the list. I know Kopente is like 7th, I think. So
He's
close
8th.
enough to top
Yep.
5, 8th, close enough to top 5. But the other 2, I was surprised. I felt like with how well they've started off their season, that they aren't both higher as well, Fort and Yukio.
Yeah, Fort's sitting at 14, and Yukio's sitting all the way down at 44, which
Wow.
that's a little surprising. 44 out of 53 players who have, because it is based off, it is what's the calculation for games played? It's matches times 3 divided by 2 or something like that, or I don't know. Match days times 3 divided by 2, or Rockerman put the formula in there. I forget what the calculation is.
I think that's right.
Yeah, but the qualified players, there's been 53 qualified players based on playing enough games, which there's a formula for that, which is right around 7 or 8 games as of right now. And to see him at 44 out of 53, he's in the bottom 10, Yukio is, and that's really surprising that, he's that low. With the success that team's had, that's a great point, you would expect, a team that is very strong and very dominant so far to have, most of their players at least in the top half. That's definitely a good point out there. I do want to head down to the Prospect League, and we're gonna talk about this one. And this one's not quite as surprising, but we got Hunzer at 1, Sweeney at 2, Parker at 3, Creed at 4, and Cog at 5. So what surprises me about this list is that we don't have any Blackhawks on here. It's close. Vex is 6 on this list. But there's been a lot of and Kosh is 8. There's been a lot of, people doubting this Origin roster. And the capabilities that they have, and yet they have 2 players in Hunzer and Sweeney running 1 and 2 on this board. So when you look at it stat wise, they got 2 players who are really putting it up there. And then you have Rockerman. Rockerman's played in Chally for seasons and seasons and seasons. So for him to drop down in prospect as well, he has the game knowledge and that game sense to really lock things down. And he's sitting at 19th in the player rating, so that's what I was expecting to see out of the Venom roster. Is a situation like that. Two guys really high up, and their third guy on that roster. Maybe not as high up, but 20 out of 54 players qualified for ratings so far. So, other than that, Parker, not surprised there. Name change. If you don't know who Parker is, he was awful last season.
The name.
Oh.
The
name awful. He had a name change. His name was awful last season, and he's now Parker. That definitely messed me up a little bit. Actually, I forgot when we played the Melons, and I was like, how good is this Parker guy? And then I was told afterwards that it was awful, and I said, oh, that makes so much sense. Creed from Hypernova up there, and then Cog from Velocity. Not that Velocity's bad. Velocity's a very good squad. Velocity has Cog, Jax, and Grebsy
KSU.
right now. KSU, and this is why it's a little surprising that Cog's up there, is his partner in crime, KSU, has not played a game yet.
Really?
He's been out on vacation or something, or I don't know exactly what it is, but I knew he was missing the first 4 games. He'll be back starting divisional matchups. But to see Cog up there without his, partner in crime, he had that, generational run a couple seasons back with with KSU, sorry, that, they flirted with a undefeated regular season. So it's a little surprising to see him up there. Not that he's not a bad player, just without his, really good duo that he's comfortable with. And then, like I said, just not seeing any Blackhawks up there. Like I said, Vex is close. Kosh is right there at 8. I definitely think Kosh, after playing Kosh, is definitely a top 5 player. He's really good. And then just honorable mentions as well. It's kind of crazy when you think about the prospect leave, not having Gallium up there, not having Jaegers up there. Again, they're all close. Brindy last season's champ, coming through the play-in tournament as the 10 seed, and mowing down everyone in their way. So that's my take here on prospect. ChunkLite, CMoney. I know this is more closer to your home, and you guys definitely know some more players here as well. So what are your takes on this?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what you said. Oh, sorry, but yeah,
Yeah,
like
go
there were
ahead.
some big names, some type people. I mean, you have Hypnotic, who is top on Vipers, and he has always been a top player. Not to hear him is kind of a shock for me. And then I know Banshees haven't been looking too hot, but they have Crip, like you said, who was at one point all the way up in Rival. I think he touched.
Different Crip.
Different Crip.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yep.
Yeah, there's another Cripus
They
is still
have the
in
exact
rivalry.
same
There's
name?
just a new.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is new Crip.
One has a dot, a period at the end.
That should not be allowed. We need like.
I think Crip would mulled out of Nemesis before he went down to Prospect. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't know. Rockerman said that, and look, he's playing in prospect.
That is true.
That's
He's getting
true.
carried in Prospect. What you mean?
Hey, don't say that. He's watching.
I know.
Oh well, that's good to know that Crip didn't go that low. I was about to feel bad. I remember. That's what I'm saying, merely. Well, okay. Anyways, but yeah, so like Brindy the Blade, Hypnotic, Vipers, those 2 guys were always solid. They've been around for a while. The Speed Demon dude's been playing forever. I don't know. He needs to get up there.
I shot 1 for 17 week 1, buddy. It's gonna take me a bit to make up for that shooting percentage.
You might not have
Yikes.
a chance.
Yeah. You're gonna have to go like 10 for 5 now.
Yeah, something like that.
But
Don't get
yeah,
something like that, Rocker man.
I was gonna point out in like the past, like how you guys mentioned about like strong teams like not showing up on player rating. I think it's kind of a good thing to see them not show up on player rating. It just means one guy isn't doing the work. You can't really stop one guy to stop the team. So it just shows great teamwork and everyone's contributing. And if they are up there, it means they're just putting up insane stats along with all being good. So
No, and that's a great point. The more well-rounded team you have, the more, people you need to worry about on that team. One person isn't going to be able to, make a huge difference in it. And it's good. If one person's having a bad night, then someone else can step up, right? So that's definitely a good point there, Chunk. Now, we're running a little late than what I had expected here, and I know some of these guys might have plans. So we're gonna send it off for the night. There's a couple things that I want to talk about before we do, officially end the first podcast back in a couple seasons, and this is gonna require some help from you guys in chat. Coming out here in the future, I'm gonna put out a couple forums for you people in the community. One of those forums are gonna be if you guys have any segments, topics that you want to see talked about on the podcast. There'll be a forum for you guys to fill out to give us suggestions that you would want to see. Another one is going to be if you guys have any specific questions, just a simple question that you guys want answered by, a panel of people on the podcast that are brought to you like this, that are throughout different leagues, right? I'll always try to have someone, covering leagues, right? We have one from each league tonight. That might not always be the case, but someone who's knowledgeable in at least a couple leagues to cover, our bases. So we have a lot of knowledge throughout the whole league here. I'm also going to have a form out there if anyone wants to join the podcast as a, guest in the future, right? I'll get that form out there. You guys can apply for that. Obviously it's not everyone's going to be able to come on the podcast. But if someone wants to come on, that's something that we can, discuss as a team here and bring guests on. And then one other thing that I think is going to be really, really cool is I really want to try to start doing a clip of the week. Okay. And that is the biggest thing that you guys can help us with is they have to be Nemesis League match clips. We have a channel already in the Discord for you to post them. There's been one posted this season already. It's right in the is it miscellaneous? Where is it? Let me find out where it is. Yep, it's in the miscellaneous tab in the Discord, Nemesis Clips submission. Mealey, actually, you're the one who has posted one so far this season. It was a pretty nasty axle breaker, if you ask me. But I want to see people posting their clips. And what the thought process is you post a clip, say, for the week we come back, right? It's not going to be that week because we'd have to compile them and make a video to show them and talk about it. But the week after, we'll do, a top 3, maybe a top 5 showing the clips that, the news team has voted on and discussed. And from there, we'll show you what we thought the top 5 were and then a winner. And what that's also going to help the league with in general is end of season awards. There's always goal of the season, save of the season, stuff like that. And the more we can post throughout the season, the better that we have to be able to have more nominations and get the best, actual shot, goal, save, whatever out there. So feel free to start, putting your submissions in there. And that's something that I definitely want to get rolling for you guys. For you guys watching on the YouTube, because this will be saved as a VOD, and we will get these starting posting to the YouTubes as well. Feel free to, reach out to me, reach out to Mealey, who's my oversight from management team. If you have any questions, concerns about it. But, I appreciate all of you guys that showed up tonight for the first podcast, the interactiveness of the chat. Definitely want chat interaction. It makes it fun. This isn't supposed to be something that's super, strict. I want it to be laid back, free flowing. So I appreciate you guys on the panel with me tonight. Mealey, CMoney, Marco, Ventus, ChunkLite for coming out, helping me with the first podcast back in a couple seasons. It's good to be back. We won't have one next week because there's nothing to talk about from this week as it's an off week. But please expect them to be a weekly occurrence. We're going to try to keep it to a Friday, Saturday night. The time may vary depending on when people's availability is. So just be on the lookout for that. But again, I appreciate all of you. Have a great night, and we will see you in 2 weeks.